Welcome to Logos Fireball Software Tutorials, and today we are going to dive deep into more of the third conditional clause and what's really going on with the third conditional clause. If you remember, Daniel B. Wallace made some statements about the third conditional. First, it's a simple logical, it can be probability yes, probability no, or sometimes it gets lumped in with the fifth conditional clause. So let's go here. I'm going to go in and we're going to search, and we're just going to search for Wallace. He's going to come in. I'm going to click on his grammar, and I want to highlight what he says. He says here that the third conditional clause, let me increase my font a little bit. There. So the third conditional clause can be a simple logical, sometimes it's called the present general. Next, it's a mere hypothetical situation or one that will probably not be fulfilled. Now, here's where I want to talk. It's my contention, or it's my distinction is that when there is a not, like ooh or may, then it's a probability not. So in this case, they're using the structural semantically as it were a fourth conditional clause. And lastly, you have probability yes. And then he goes on to say the fifth class conditional requires a present indicative in the hypothesis, while the third class can take virtually. So we're going to do some searches, and we're going to find these out of what's going on. So if you don't know any Greek, that this should be helpful to you. So let me get my notes, baby, because I have a whole bunch here. So I got my notes here, and I'm just going to drag this right here. So the first one is that his grammatical construction. So we're going to do a search. And we are going to search over, here's the search. And here is here's the search. Now, so I want to show you some different ways and possible ways that could limit it, but not be effective, and essentially tell you why. So if I use and I'm going to use the lemma.g, I may have to, and say for instance, ooh. So it's not working for me very, very much. So that's why I kind of, so what I wanted to do is, those are morphs. Here we are. I want to show you. So here's one that I did. I had already made it. And sometimes it doesn't always populate. Let me see if I can do it exactly how I lemma.g colon, and I'm going to do, there we are. And we have the oo. So if you want to type in the Greek, that's how you would do it. Lemma.g colon oo. And I'm just going to, so this one can be helpful here, and it had limited our results. So let me tell you what's going on here. So it's taking all the searches from here and all the searches from this, and it's saying, hey, wherever that there's a verse that both of these are in, that's what I wanted to show. So it's definitely a way to limit it. So if I were to just do a lemma, and I did ooh, and you're gonna see how many it's in over 1,000 verses. And if I were to just do, so what it's doing, it's saying, hey, I'm using the and operator, and what the and operator does is say, hey, if there's, give me the list in here and give me the list in here, and wherever there's a verse in both, that's what I want. I want you to list only those. So I have lemma.g, and we're just going to search for the oo. Now, I know in Wallace's is if you look over here, he has these structural categories, and he says may. I would, just because of what I know about language, is if there's more than one way to say it, then oddly that somebody is going to go when they use it. So ooh, so this is what brings up ooh. And if I were to look at the Matthew 18:13, and in particularly the Greek, I would go into the L. So let's kind of go into, let's kind of pull this down here. I want to pull this down here. There we go. So, and we say that we're going to go to Matthew 18:3. We say the ain right there, and there is the negator there, which would make this. So, but there's also one here. So this is just bring. So here's the one that it's pulling, and the unless is really where the may occurs, because that's the negator as well. So and here the negator is more in the in the condition rather than that the if statement. Now, if I were to add another limitation, and I'm going to do lemma, and I want to list there. Now, I want to show you what's going to happen because I'm going to do something. So, as it stands now, but I'm going to put these in I think those are, they're not called brackets, but he can call them for parentheses. So what this does, it says, hey, wherever that you have an oo and a may, I want you to list only those in there. So now it definitely limits our searches to just that. So now that we have a list of verb verses that we would consider that are negators. So now we're coming on and we're seeing a variety of verb verses. But what you also see is that some of these are not in our condition. I want only those verses that may have a may or an oo, and only in our verses. So I created one that has it. So I wanted to explain this one a little bit. So I'm gonna. So this one already has a may. So, and I want to explain this search here, and we're gonna have this other search here. Just search it over here. So now we're going to do this search, and I want to explain this search. And I've got too many here. I forgot to have one. This one I don't need to have here. I don't need this one. Yeah, let's see how that operates. So sometimes with these searches is that you just need to see how they act without them. So here is 41 verb verses. So it's saying, hey, every time that I have an aim, and within 10 words of that aim, there's a may. And within the may, there's 5 words, and there is a subjunctive. Hey, all I want you to list those. This is a nice search that if you want to limit your searches and you know a certain word exists within X number of words, this can be helpful. So I already have this search already here. So so what we're going to do is I'm going to put a parentheses around this to make sure that the search treats it as one. And I'm going to have my third conditional clause over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to paste that. And I'm going to have an and. Now, what this search is doing, the search is saying, hey, the first condition it's going to search for is a third class conditional. Now, it's going to take all these verses that came up, and only those verses that are also in the third class conditional is only going to list those. So now we're going to do the search, and voila. It came, but it shows you. So the yellow highlight tells you of what is your third class conditional. This blue highlight tells you which ones are the ain in the other one. The second one is for the second condition. It's telling you wherever may is at. And the third and last one is telling you every time that there is a subjunctive. So you could possibly use this search is if you didn't want to go and look the Greek, you use this to tell you which ones are the subjunctives. And this brought out all the not statements or everything that had a may. So what we want to keep in mind is the verses where these lie. So if we do our search over here, and we're going to drag this over, and we come over here, and all we're going to do is the grammatical construction. I'm going to paste that in there. So this is in 327 verses. What this is saying is of those 27 verses, or of those 26 verses, of the 26, that those have the not. And this is the one that we want to look at. We want to look at the Greek and see what's going on here in the Greek. That is really what we want to do. So we're going to drag this, and I want to drag it in such a way. There we go. So we're going to look at Matthew 10. It brought up Matthew 10:8. Let's go and let's look at Matthew 6:15. We're looking at, so here is our aim. So there's the start of our third class conditional. And now it's saying, now is the may, and here's our subjunctive. Here's our subjunctive here. It's a past event. If you have not forgiven anybody. That one can hit a little bit hard. So if you have not, so that's the implication. If you have not forgiven anybody, neither will your Father forgive you in the future. So how this is function. So it's obvious that this is in one sense that yes, that if I if I do this, so it's saying in here, and sometimes each one of these texts that we need to look at them on in their context. We just don't apply rules to things randomly, but we have to analyze the passage. So in this case, this would be a future more probable. Meaning that if I have not forgiven anything, then what's gonna happen is that God will not forgive me. And you want to look at each one of these passages, and then to analyze each one into what they are doing. That's why some of these passages are, you have something that's not going to happen. So this is a type of search that you can do, and something that can help you. But what I want to emphasize, when it comes to Greek, context is king. What that means is, just because I have a rule, I'm still going to look at the context, and does it make sense? I got some other searches here, some things that might help you as well. So these are types of limiting searches. So here I already showed you this, and so here is a search that would be used when I want to limit it onto just the subjunctives. Here's the one I just showed you with may. Here's one with may, and oo. But I do want to show you something that you might be aware of. So I'm going to take, all I want to do is search the third class conditional. And I want to analyze some things, and I want to show you some things. So when I come in here, so this is, I want to do a analysis. So it's going to bring up all my searches here, and it's going to tell me things about my search. What I want to highlight is, so I already have this. So what you may have to do here is right click here, and I already have tense and mood. So I am going to come into tense. So this tells me every tense that my search has brought out. Now, that's the one thing it does. And say I also want to know the mood. So well, what it now has, depending on where I put this. So if I put this over here, so it's going to have, if I do this over here, so it's going to have tense. It's going to show both the tense as well as the mood. So any time that a present tense comes out in my search, that this is going to show anytime an optative comes in. And these are helpful because when I want to really analyze a passage, and I want to see how is the typical way that the present tense is used in a third conditional clause that has an indicative. These are all things that you can do in searches that you can do that can that can help you in understanding it. Next, we have something. We have a. I have a search here for the fifth conditional clause. So Wallace said is that when sometimes the third conditional gets lumped with the fifth conditional. Now I'm going to do a search and just show you what would populate in. So what this is saying is, when I have when I have the lemma ain along with following 5 words, I have a subjunctive, and within 5 words, I have a indicative. When this situation happens, I want you to bring up that search. Now, it brought up 81 verses. Now, we don't know if these are categorized in the third conditional clause or not. So one thing I'm going to do, I wanted to treat this as one search. And we're going to come over here and we're going to copy and paste this. And we're going to use the AND operator. So the AND says, hey, I want only the verses that come up in a search of a third class conditional and the lemma and the search for here, only show those. That's all I want. And so this is what it brought. It brought up all these verses that coincide with ain within 5 words of a subjunctive and within 5 words of a present tense indicative. Let me show you how I how I did that, because I think that would be helpful. So I'm going to drag this search here, and I'm going to do a search right here. So all I'm going to do is like this part right here that we already know. So I'm going to already just paste that in there. Now I have my and here. And has to be all capital letters. And I have a lemma. .g colon Let me make sure I try. So sometimes you need to do the search in a complete. So we have lemma dot g colon. There we go. That's what it is. Here we go. That is probably what it is. So let me show you. We have a dot g colon. So sometimes that this kind of happens where that you can't then necessarily do it, so you just have to copy and paste it. So now I know I'm going to put that in there. Now it says within 5 words. Now, within in words has to be capitalized. It cannot be not capitalized. Now, what I do now is I do the at symbol. That pulls up that. I have a verb, and I'm going to come over here in mood and subjunctive. And then now it's within 5 words. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the at symbol, the verb, and I want a present tense indicative. So anytime that it does not show, that this shows up, I want it to do that search. So now we're going to limit this a bit. So I want my search to treat this, all of this, into one. So I want this to come up with the search of this, and I want the other thing for the third class conditional. Now, what's going to happen here is that we should have 79 verses. I have one that, lemma, hold on. I have something that is here. The more longer your searches are, the more you need to be careful of things that within 5 words, more. Tells me there is missing a quotation mark. Right there. Now our search should be fine. Normally it'll tell you what's wrong with it. So, voila, 79 verses. So let's look at this one right here of Matthew 5:20. Let's take a look at this, and let's just say, so the condition was that there's a present tense indicative in the fulfillment, in the apodosis, or the apodosis. So we're going to come in here and we're going to look at this passage from Matthew 6:15. Interesting. I cannot. There we go. All right. So we have the ain, we have the mang. So and then it just comes up as mang. Now, why the may is highlighted? Because our search still has. So if I were to remove this or remove a search, so there's a search here where I have. Now, when I come in and I come back with my search, so we have this here of, and we're looking for the obodices, and we're looking for one with the indicative. Now, what we also may run into a bit is that there is a indicative. So, for instance, we have this one. We're looking for present tense indicatives. So this would be future indicative. That should be plural. Here's our present tense. That one. The subjunctive. Here's the indicative. Now I'm going to add something to our search to help to limit it. Because I think we're getting some searches that we don't want. So what we're going to come over here and do is I'm going to add this, and I'm going to add a not. And what the not is going to do is going to remove any search that I want to remove any tense that is not an indicative. So I want to have an aorist tense, future tense, imperfect. I want everyone that is not a present tense. I want those to be excluded. So we're gonna, and now all we have, and it has limited it even more. All we have are those verses. So if I go to John 5:31, and we have our ain, and all we have is a present tense indicatives of, so this now all we have is the verses that we are really looking for. Now these are all, so now that we start to apply, so Wallace's rule, so we go to 531, and I'm going to click on this. It's going to put, if I bear witness by myself, my testimony is not true. So, and then when we look at the Greek and we try to find the, we try to find the protasis as well as the apodosis. So here would be the protasis, that if I testify about myself, and this is a condition, here is the fulfillment, then it's not true. So applying what Wallace says, so would this make sense in this context? That he's saying that if I testify about myself, then the fulfillment of that is that it's not true. Of course, if that makes sense in this context. These are a variety of different searches that you can do to distinguish the third class conditional. I hope that this was helpful and you have a wonderful day.